Hi there, my name is Jeff, and I am the creator of CloudPandas.com. I'm so glad that you've chosen to work with us, and today I want to walk you through a quick getting started guide. So, this video is meant to be a companion to the online quick start guide, and we're going to go through the exact same steps of setup to get you started so that you can start using, and then reference the other data on our support site as you have more questions that come up. But this should get you up and running to where you can be effective with the clients. So the very first thing that we need to do is create a data provider connection. Now that we are logged in, we have our account, we are set up, we will come over to data providers. There are none in there yet, which makes sense. Add a new provider. Here, you select what type of provider. In our use case, we are going to select Google. And I'm going to give it a unique and meaningful name. So for this, I will say Google, and I'm going to say this is my work account. Notice that you can set up multiple connections to the same provider. For instance, I could have a Google Work and a Google Personal with two different Google accounts that are set up. And then likewise, I can come in here and make connections to Smartsheets, Dropbox, Box, etc. But for now, we're going to go with this. It is going to direct me over to Google, accounts.google.com in this case, and ask me to log in with that provider. So I'm going to choose the account I want to log in with. And it is going to ask me to, if I want to allow CloudPandas to see, edit, create, delete information on my account, which obviously I need to if I'm going to use the client. So click allow. And when it's done, it'll bring you right back here to data providers. And now we have one active provider in the form of Google Work. If you click into it, you can see all the details. And very importantly, its status is active, which means we are good to go on to our next step. From here, you can also list files, re-authenticate if you're having issues, or delete the provider and start over if you want to remove that particular connection. But we are going to come over and set up our client at this point. So the first thing you need to do is set up your environment. So here we require Python 3.7 or above. So we can verify that, so there's going to be no issues. And we're going to use pip to install the module CloudPandas, which is our client. And as you can see, I already have the latest package installed, which makes sense. Now, if we come over to our Python script, or you could use the REPL, I am using Jupyter Labs, and I'm going to create a notebook, and that's my preferred way of working with it, but any Python interpreter will do. I'm going to import both the CloudPandas module, which I just installed, as well as Pandas, which I assume if you are using this, you are already very familiar with, and since we are going to be returning information as data frames, it makes sense to have that installed as well. That all imported without an issue. And now we're going to create our client connection. This is what connects our Python script to the CloudPandas.com API. So the first thing I need to do is get my API key. I'm going to come back over here to the website. I will go under Profile, Get Token. And here it's going to give me the token that I need, my API token. Now, this is very important. I am sharing this for our demonstration purposes, but I will be updating this and deleting this token as soon as I'm done and before I upload this information to the internet. You should treat your token just like you would your password, since anyone who has it can access all of your data. If for some reason your token is compromised, for instance, you unwillingly or unwittingly upload it to GitHub or something like that, you can come in here and select Update Token, which will refresh it and create a brand new token, and then you won't have to worry about the old one anymore. also note that throughout the website there's API client syntax, which is contextual based on where you are in the site. So for instance, here it's showing me how to work with the client. And I could simply copy and paste this over into my script, which I have here. This is going to set up my client with the API key. Now I can test the client using the client data providers list function. And it's going to list the data providers that I have installed. You can see here I have configured the Google work, which we set up just a minute ago. It's using Google as its provider, of course, and it is active, so we are in good shape. Now we're going to assume that you have some data here in your script that you want to upload to your data provider. For our purposes, I'm going to create some random bogus data using NumPy here in the form of this df test data frame. Now I want to upload that as a brand new sheet to my Google Work data provider. So I'm going to specify the data frame, the provider connection, and the sheet name I'm going to use is CloudPandas Test 01. And the sheet type, I don't actually need to specify in this case because sheet is the default option. However, it's important for you to know the difference here in that Google Sheets and Smartsheet store the data natively as what they refer to as a sheet, and hence that is the sheet type here. However, Google Drive, as well as Box and Dropbox, store the data as a file, so it needs to be told what type of file it is going to use, and the options there would be either Excel or CSV. We're going to take this, it's going to upload the data, success. And now, if I come over to Google Sheets, we will be able to view that data online. So we have our CloudPandas Test 01. And we have all of the bogus data that I uploaded. Now, for the purposes of our demonstration, I'm going to change this cell to test. And we will be able to see that change later when we pull down a fresh copy of the data. Coming back over, you can see that when I created the sheet, it returned a JSON object with status success, and the ID is the ID of the sheet. Now, I will show you why that is important here by listing the sheets in my Google Work data provider. So I'm going to get just the top two, and the client sheet list function will return a data frame with all of the files in that particular provider. I'm using the head function to just take the first two. Now you will notice there are two files named CloudPandas Test 01. How do we distinguish between the two? Well, we can use the ID. So you'll notice the ID in this top one matches the ID that was returned when we created a new file. And this is important. Some providers, such as Google Sheets, allow you to reuse or duplicate names. And so CloudPandas will take the most recent copy of that file and use it when you are specifying the name. It assumes that you want the most recent one. However, in order to be more deterministic as you are scripting and automating things, it is often good to know the ID of the file that you want so that there's no question about what you are looking to modify. For our purposes here in the demo, I will continue to use just the name, which, as I mentioned, will take the most recent copy. I can get information about the sheet in question using the client.sheet.info function. Give me modified date, etc. Now, if I want to pull down a fresh copy of that data, I can do that using the client.sheet.get function. Again, I'm going to specify the data provider and the sheet name, or I could do sheet ID. And I'm going to store the data it returns as a data frame, tf_new. Here, my modification that I made online. Now, let's suppose that we downloaded this information and we want to make some programmatic updates to it using Python, and then re-upload it and update the sheet in place on our provider. So we are going to change 1A to be new data. See our change here. And now what I'm going to do is use the client.sheets.update function. Here, I'm specifying the data frame that it will be basing it off of, the provider, and the sheet ID. Return status success. Now if we come back over here, you can see my modifications are in place. Finally, now that we are done with the test, we are going to delete the sheet using the client.sheets.delete function. Let's find the provider name and the sheet name. And that is it. That concludes our quick start guide. I hope this gets you off to a good start. If you have more questions, we have more data and a full API client reference on our site under the support tab. And if you still get stuck, you can email me directly using the email address provided in our support center. Thanks so much.